Ratchet Clank Rift Apart launches this Friday the 11th of June exclusively on the PS5, and now the reviews are in and it looks like another back-to-back hit for Insomniac Games. Rift Apart is the 16th entry to the franchise and the first in 5 years since the 2016 remake of the original. The unique selling point of this one is the dimension jumping and teleporting facilitated by the PS5's impressive SSD loading. But how did it hold up? Is it the PS5's first killer app, or just more of the same with a new coat of paint? Currently, at the time of writing, the game sits at 89 on Metacritic based on 97 reviews, with 93 being positive and just 4 mixed with 0 negative. All the reviews in this video are linked below, so check them out in full if you want to know more than just their conclusions and scores. It got 14 perfect scores, and that's where we'll begin with VG247's Tom Ori, who simply said the PS5 has arrived and gave it 5 stars. His review is deeply nostalgic from the get-go, which is understandable given this game series' legacy, and your own nostalgia for the franchise will likely influence how you feel about it too, so it's worth noting up top. We've had showpiece games for new consoles in the past, but rarely do they offer the gameplay experience to back up the spectacle. Insomniac has become one of the safest pairs of hands in gaming, so it shouldn't be a surprise to learn that Rift Apart most definitely isn't just a superbly lit show pony. This is a full-fat, planet-hopping, mystery-filled adventure that PS5 owners will lap up and non-owners will resent not being able to play, perhaps through no lack of trying. Mars Morales and Demon's Souls were superb launch titles for the PS5, but we're now through the looking glass, the bar has been set, the PS5 has arrived. Moving down to the bottom end of the spectrum, which is a very slim portion of the review pool, we've got GInfinity, where Joel Franey called it fragile, fickle fun and gave it 3.5 out of 5. A certain level of scrappiness can be charming, but it's harder to excuse in a big budget project like this one, and 3 crashes in an hour is far too scrappy to be overlooked. Still, I do have a fondness for Rift Apart, perhaps because I do get the sense that this was a project built with love, yet not so much love that it wasn't willing to experiment and try some new things. Once all the many bugs are fixed, this'll be a pretty good game for families to enjoy, and a superb showcase of what the PS5 is capable of. He gushes over how visually impressive the game can be, but points out that comes at the expense of performance issues like crashes, freezes, frame drops, and desynced audio. These issues clearly hampered his overall experience in what was otherwise a fun, mildly unfocused game that gives you everything you'd expect and leaves it at that. Following that, we've got another perfect score with 5 out of 5 stars from GamesRadar's Rachel Weber, who fell in love with the game's story far more than the others, making it the best Ratchet & Clank adventure yet and a showcase for the power of the PS5. I've always liked the Lombax and his shiny sidekick, but it's never been a series I've engaged with emotionally beyond a yearning for the next unlockable weapon. This time around, I was all in, especially when it came to the story of the depressed robot companion Kit. With her sunny yellow body and dour mood, she's an icon of our times, and I wanted a happy ending for her so badly it gave me low-level anxiety. It feels as though Insomniac's writers have taken their cues from more recent Marvel movies, managing the tricky balancing act of cartoon mayhem and emotional payoffs. It made me, a casual Lombax fancier, more invested in the series than ever before, and hoping we get to see a lot more of the fabulous foursome soon. Weber praises the sheer amount of fun the game has to offer, but also remarks on the technical issues like stuck enemies and crashes. Back at the bottom of the pile now, we've got Metro's gaming department Gaming Central, which awarded it 7 out of 10. The visuals are given a lot of praise, and the variety of weapons at your disposal are highly imaginative, but the actual gameplay was described as old-fashioned, while the story was too short, raising questions around the £70 price tag. There is some replayability, with a whole new tier of weapon upgrades to unlock on a subsequent playthrough, but Rift Apart struggles to justify the £70 price tag. Although perhaps the most damning indictment is that regardless of the incredible graphics, basic design and gameplay feels stuck in the PlayStation 2 era. The portals and open world areas don't make nearly enough difference, and the third-person gunplay, while competent, is still not as good as, say, Returnal. That's not to suggest that Rift Apart isn't entertaining, because it is, and not just in terms of wanting to see what the graphics are like on the next planet. But despite all the amazing visuals, this is a surprisingly forgettable video game experience with disappointingly low ambitions. Going more positive again, Jonathan Dornbrush of IGN gave it a 9 out of 10, meaning amazing, and called it a fantastic PS5 exclusive showpiece for the console's power and a delightful adventure in its own right. In the opening lines, it directly opposes Metro's perspective by saying the duo's age doesn't show at all. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is a stunner. It not only gives the latest generation of consoles a game that looks as beautiful as the improved tech promise, but also a fantastic experience to play. Insomniac has been around the Ratchet & Clank block plenty of times, but Rivet and other new characters add so much charm, wit and heart starts to a franchise I've loved for most of my life. That's coupled with series best action platforming gameplay and incredible art and sound design across the board. Rift Apart may not be the biggest adventure around, but its big heart, wild weapons, and incredible detail easily make it one of the most memorable of the year so far. GameSpot's Steve Watts was also very positive, giving it a 9, meaning superb. Only one bad thing is mentioned at the end, which is the Trudy flight missions, which are described as awkward and imprecise. The good parts are much more plentiful, including the gorgeous presentation, the haptics of the DualSense controller, new traversal tools which improve platforming and combat, and the new co-star Rivet is instantly lovable. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is flashy and technically impressive without feeling self-important. It's just as silly, sweet, and earnest as the Ratchet & Clank series tends to be, while the new generation of hardware makes this entry look and play better than ever. Like the heroes and villains and their dimensional counterparts, this one may appear different or carry itself with a new accent, but there's an underlying truth to the person underneath. At its core, it's still your trusty old pals on another grand space adventure. That's what's important. The Washington Post reviewer Christopher Bird apparently gave the game 70, but I can't actually see the score anywhere on their own site. The biggest criticism this time is that the game just doesn't really do anything new. For those looking for a blockbuster family-friendly experience, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart checks the boxes. It is hyperkinetic and full of cutesy-looking characters that wear their emotions on their sleeves. If you've seen one of the trailers, then you basically know what you're in for. Something that's totally familiar but with next-gen graphics. In other words, from a marketing perspective, it's a safe bet. There is a separate review on the Washington Post in the video game focus department launcher, written by Gene Park, who apparently gave the game 100 and totally disagrees. He described it as the best PlayStation experience since Bloodborne, before closing with, the story of Rift Apart hits at deep, unspoken insecurities. It will pick at them before reassuring you. It might remind you of your own evolving friendships. In a time when sneering, ironic detachment remains in fashion, Insomniac Games has created the rare modern masterpiece with no convoluted agenda, no subtext, just so many reasons to smile and laugh. This purity is felt through every pixel, every line reading, every planet. We're lucky to have it in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, the first great game of the new console generation. That final paragraph leads nicely into another of the more negative reviews from Gamer.No from Norway. While Gene Park loved the fun and friendly story, Andreas Bjornbeck gave the game 7 out of 10 and said it lacked the charm of its predecessors, criticizing its more Disney-esque story and characters this time around. After praising the visuals and action-packed gameplay, he says, "This is far from the best Ratchet game. The characters are tame, the story without special fun or exciting twists, and the platform gameplay is quite varied. I often feel like I'm in a carefully directed action sequence on literal rails rather than cool moments where I can make my own choices. And here, Ratchet can take inspiration from the fantastic It Takes Two, which really reinvented the wheel. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is not a masterpiece, but if you're looking for a fantastic action-packed platform game on your new console, and most importantly, more Ratchet & Clank, just look forward to a reunion with the iconic duo." Finally, let's finish up with some reviews that don't provide review scores with Eurogamer and Kotaku. Eurogamer's Chris Tapsell gave it the recommended badge, saying, "With Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Sony Charmers-in-Chief deliver another lesson in laid-back, unpretentious fun." He points out that the game is just solid video game fun, pure and simple, without trying to be profound or coming across as pseudo-intellectual. The character and the absurdity and the charm that Insomniac is all about, that the team kickstarted with Ratchet & Clank in 2002 and continued to master with such faultless confidence in Rift Apart. It is just pure craft, pure fun, pure video games, all the brilliant, bizarre ideas this studio has thrown at the wall, and all of them sticking. The only thing it lacks, apart from maybe a tiny bit of restraint, is pretense. There's no self-seriousness, no po-faced melodrama, no insecurity about the form. A game that's happy to be a game in a familiar, cuddly shape. Kotaku's John Walker really enjoyed his 18-hour jaunt across the dimensions, but criticised the lack of significant innovation. Rift Apart is, beyond doubt, a fabulous game. It took me 18 hours to reach the credits because I hunted down every scrap of Raritarium, looked for every secret I could find, and just bathed in its visually astonishing art. I had the best time doing it. Yet, the further I got, the more it nagged at me just how little this series has advanced in 19 years. If having the dimensional conceit and extraordinary tech wasn't enough to inspire something new, then what will? If there's another Ratchet & Clank to come, it's going to have to make some significant changes because this might be the last time it can be repeated through its charisma alone. To sum up all these reviews, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is a beautiful continuation of Insomniac's iconic characters that boasts impressive visuals like particle effects and animation, further enhanced by the near instant loading and dimension hopping. If you're in the market for something a little more expansive and innovative than previous Ratchet games, then you will be disappointed, but if you already love the old ones, you'll surely love this one too on nostalgia alone. We always meme the idea of it doesn't bring anything new to the table around here, because so long as the game is fun, that's all that really matters, and that's something even the more negative reviewers can agree on. It's brightly coloured, explosive, chaotic, fun. Most seem to really like the story, but if you're not a fan of Disney movies all about the power of friendship, then this one may not be as fun for you. The new characters have been warmly received pretty much across the board, which is a very tricky line to walk, especially when one of them is playable, but I've seen zero criticism of Rivet as a co-protagonist. As far as length and replayability, you'll get different mileage depending on your personal tastes, of course, but the average playtime for the story appears to be around 15 hours, which may be a little on the skinny side if you're dropping 70 quid. A few reports of the performance issues and crashes make that 70 quid price tag even tougher to swallow for the time being, but at least that's in theory the sort of thing that should be fixed over time as the game begins to drop in price. Several devs have also been on social media explaining that they made the game without crunching at all, proving that big budget games can be done without overworking the teams. Are you thinking of picking up Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart at launch on Friday, or are you going to sit on it for a while and wait for it to come down in price? Or more likely, are you still struggling to even get hold of a PS5 to play the goddamn thing? I don't have a PS5 and I've never played a Ratchet game before, so I'm not jumping out of my seat to try it, but it definitely looks like a lot of fun, so I'll probably scoop it up at some point. Anyway, that's it for this review roundup, a bit of the good ones, a bit of the bad ones. All 11 reviews are linked in the description if you want to read up some more. Like, comment, subscribe, you know what to do. Support on Patreon if you fancy it at patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. I've been Henry Cooper, this has been Pretty Good Gaming. I'll catch you next time, bye for now.